another episode of the Otaku Crew podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am your host, Andy. And before I get started, I'd like to remind everyone that our podcast is available to Steam wherever podcasts are found, like Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. And please feel free to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. I would love you forever if you did that. And if you want any more anime content, feel free to follow us on social medias like Twitter, Instagram, and join our Discord. All is available in the description. Now that I got that out of the way, let's introduce our today's panelists for today's episode. So today I have Monado Boy, Tensei, and Leifan. So I'll go by them one by one. So Monado Boy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about the big business of anime.
Ooh, yes, the big future of anime. I'm also excited. How about you, Tensei? How you feeling?
Oh, this is gonna be great. This is because this is a subject that we've actually been thinking for a while now, since it
Yes,
has begun.
yes, you're right. I'm also super excited. How about you, Leifan? How you feeling?
I've been away for the past two or so episodes. I apologize, but it's time to see where the money's at. Apparently, it's
Yes.
in this. So let's do it.
I'll be honest, I'm so excited to have you boys here. It has definitely been a while, especially Leifan, so very happy to have you back on the podcast again. So, if it's not already obvious from whatever title description we have, today we're going to cover the Funimation and Crunchyroll merger, which has been all over the news for any anime lovers out there. We are all being affected by this. So to briefly explain, Funimation, or Sony, who owns Funimation, has successfully bought out Crunchyroll, and now they're going to be merging their platforms. Now, this project, or this merger, has been on and off the table, in the works, in discussions, for many years now, I think even before 2018, but because of several reasons, it kept getting shut down by Sony, or AT&T, who owned Crunchyroll, kept shutting it down. But now that Sony owns Funimation, they've finally been able to buy out Crunchyroll for a lot of money, and now we're seeing the merger taking place, which is which is strange because I don't think a lot of people thought that it would happen this quickly. So let's start with you, Leifon. Haven't heard from you in a while. What do you think about this initially? What do you think about it?
Well, here's the thing. From my sources being Facebook post, there was a little article saying that Crunchyroll and Funimation had merged. Now, I didn't know it. I thought it was Crunchyroll buying Funimation, but if you're saying it's the opposite, Funimation buying Crunchyroll,
Yeah.
my reality has been totally shattered, of course. So, from the readings I did into it, because I wanted to be prepared for the topic, you're correct that this conversation had been going on for a while, probably like 2018 or even earlier, and finally pushed through for a hefty amount of money and waifus, of course. And I wasn't too taken aback because pre-2010, when I was still innocent and watching on Funimation, this is before the entire paid subscription thing, because there was no subscription back then. It was just like, watch whatever you want. And then they decide to throw the wrench into the system saying, okay, now you have to pay. And myself never having watched on Crunchyroll because of the ads, all illegal watching, of course. This is not to sponsor any sites by any means. I was just like, okay, so whoever has a subscription now they get a bigger library, because it wasn't announced that the subscription price for Crunchyroll would go up or anything of the sort. So if anything, it's a smart move putting multiple platforms together, especially Funimation, because nobody in my friend group that I know of has a Funimation subscription, because that just sounds really dumb to me.
Excuse you.
Okay, on my
No,
end.
I actually
That would be me.
100% agree. That sounds ridiculous.
But I think you're completely right with all that. It was definitely surprising, and I don't blame you for thinking it was Crunchyroll that brought Funimation, because it's all going on to Crunchyroll, and Funimation is probably going to be discontinued at some point in the far future. But Monado Boy, what do you think about it?
So I am actually pretty new to like actual streaming services for anime.
So
So
you're
I
also a degenerate.
Yes, exactly. up until recently, just because like you get you get access to the new stuff like really quickly, basically the day of with things like Crunchyroll and Funimation. Whereas like for the bootleg sites you have to wait a bit longer, right? So and I was sharing an account with a friend of my partner's at the time for a while. So like I actually got it to like an extended trial run of Crunchyroll. So that's kind of how I got introduced to like this world of paid subscriptions for anime. And then I ended up like the friend canceled their subscription, and I decided like I use Crunchyroll so much I might as well just get my own subscription at this point. So I did, and I have not regretted it. And so now the fact that like Funimation is going to bring all of its content onto Crunchyroll, that just means that my subscription basically doubled in value for the same price. So like as like a consumer, I think it's awesome, but hearing like the story behind it, I find it really weird that like Sony, who already owned Funimation, would then buy Crunchyroll just to merge Funimation into Crunchyroll and basically erase Funimation, which is the one that they already had.
Kind of what Leifon said, who he said was surprised that anyone would have a Funimation account.
Yeah, I
And
guess
I would assume,
Crunchyroll is
yeah,
the bigger
Crunchyroll has
one.
more popularity and has a better reputation for good quality anime content. So in that case, when it comes to PR and credibility, it makes sense to keep it as Crunchyroll, and their format and online structure is so much better than Funimation. Holy crap. What
Yeah,
about you, Tensei?
To be fair, I think that I'm the one who actually brought the news to you guys in the first place. So so I already had a lot to say about it, like but for starters, I actually fully believe that it makes sense that they're trying to make the name Funimation disappear because of their history and bad PRs that they had over the last few years. I
potentially that
believe
too.
and I believe that by having Crunchyroll take over, they kind of sweep the bad name under the rug. Like think of it as let's take this chance and let them start anew as a Crunchyroll members instead of Funimation staff. I didn't find this weird. I actually found it disconcerting.
Really? Why do
Um,
you find it disconcerting?
I thought of it as it being disconcerting because Funimation already owned a monopoly on anime, and Crunchyroll was kind of like the only competitor they had. And now buying out the competition means that they have no competition. And because they're owned by Sony in the first place, issues with censorship galore.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I
So
never thought about the censorship would be.
it's like I took umbrage with it to the point that I actually thought of, you know what, I'd rather actually learn Japanese for real so I can subscribe to Toei Animation instead, or Sunrise, so I can just watch the original shows as is.
It's interesting. Maybe those Japanese sites might start putting English subtitles, and then that could also be a new form of competition for Crunchyroll if they decide
Fair
to go.
enough, fair enough. Even though that my also other issues is the fact that Funimation had a bad history of changing IPs, like intellectual properties, because of censorship reasons or weird other reasons. And Crunchyroll isn't that better in that regard, because I've seen stories and I've seen streaming services. Well, like I've seen it in real time when there's a scene that people are supposed to have, but everything is like black barred everywhere, but not even like in a regular black bar censorship. It's as if like the screen was broken or something. And because of that, I fear that there may be more complaints about that, because it's now that one company that owns everything. So it's basically this company or nothing.
Well, it's either that company or pirating, which I think is the biggest competition Funimation and Crunchyroll had in the first place, was
Yes,
all the pirating
yes.
sources, which are fairly easily
It's
accessible.
and to add to that, I much prefer fan subs than actual stuff published by those companies, because at the very minimum, the fan subs are faithful to the show. Not so much Crunchyroll and nor Funimation at all.
Huh, I never thought about that. I'll be honest, I've never heard about any of those complaints, but I guess I'm not that active on that side of the anime community. What do you guys think, Minato, Leifan? What do you think about that?
So so far are the gone are the days when you would watch an anime and you'd always see the Funimation banner. It's always been a different one. That's the funny part. It's just now that's going to be gone.
Wow. Well, that's unfortunate.
You know, Funimation, you should be watching, blah blah blah, blah blah
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
for the thing that we were talking about though with the censorship and like the accuracy of the dubbing, I actually read an article to like read up on this, and um, there was an interview done with one of the reps for Crunchyroll, and they had said like they were concerned about just this is like Funimation is usually a bit looser with like their censorship compared to Crunchyroll. Um, what do you say about this like going forward? Are you still going to have like these more mature shows, or you know, are you gonna censor them into the ground or just not carry them at all? And they were like, they gave a very political answer. They were like, we are committed to maintaining a library that caters to all the tastes of our varied fan base, which is like, okay, but that's not really a direct answer. So
The
we'll see, I guess.
that's their point. That's the point. The point is that they're going to give you a non-answer because they cannot actually give you a decision now. And the last thing that they want to do is to give you a yes when it has been undecided at the moment.
Well,
Keep in mind that for every company, they are trying to cater to all of their audiences. Yes, for sure. But it's also fair to consider that maybe they mean all their audiences from old Crunchyroll and not everyone with the fun and that gets ported through Funimation. So while I do find that it's a difficult answer to understand, I believe that it leans towards that they might censor the mature ones into the ground, given the fact that Crunchyroll was never about the more mature stuff.
well, I'm not saying it was a difficult answer to understand. I understand it. They don't want to say anything and dig themselves into a hole later.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
it's
just
like
saying
obviously
that
it's not
like
clear on purpose.
is what in the rest of the article they actually gave some firmer answers on things like
Ooh.
as compared to other things. So like this might be jumping ahead a bit, but like apparently the translators that made the subs at Funimation were better paid than at Crunchyroll, and they were asked like, are you going to carry that over? Are you going to improve the conditions for that role in general? Are you even going to carry these jobs over? And for a lot of that stuff, they were very like non-confirming, right? They gave non-answers, but other stuff like what's are you going to bring features over from Funimation? They said yes, we're definitely going to start. We're going to look into integrating some of the things that were on Funimation into Crunchyroll, and we're also going to improve the overall UI of the site now that we're revamping everything. So like some things they were more definite about than others.
Well, Minato
Fair
boys,
enough.
to go off of your point, actually, sorry, I like how you said the word "we will look into" because that's also not a definite yes. It's just like it's on the list, and I totally get that they can't give a definite answer on that, but it's just interesting how they shy away from giving a direct answer at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but like if you read the article, you can tell which answers are more definite than others. Like honestly, none of them were like, yes, we are going to do this, but that's just because like it's PR speak, right? But some of them
And
were
also
like,
new as well, because there's still so many things they haven't come out with. Like there's nothing saying that Funimation's or like when Funimation's going to shut down or what's going to happen with people's subscriptions. They still haven't given enough of explanation of that, and I think that's just because they're working really slowly to make sure that they integrate all this properly. And I'll actually give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to a lot of the censorship and stuff, only because they have to answer to such a larger community And I would think that the moment everyone's going to be highly critiquing them, and I would not be surprised if they go the path that most anime lovers don't like, they're going to change it because we'll bully them too, of course.
Yes, because you said it yourself. They will literally lose to pirating.
Exactly. And the pirating companies are going to be like, yes, they'll be so happy.
Good.
And keep in mind that even for pirators, the only thing that makes anyone lose money, it's really more of the American companies, the ones that does the translations. For the one that are more into the Japanese ones, they're at least still kind of supporting them.
This
Yeah, no,
is true.
you're right.
Actually, Monado Boy, just for the sake of our knowledge, do you remember the name of the article in case anyone currently listening would want to read up on this for their own knowledge?
Yeah, it's I have it open right here. Actually, it's on Anime News Network, and the article is called "What We Know About the Funimation Crunchyroll Merger."
All right, thank you
It
for
was
sharing.
published March 11th, so it's it's pretty recent. There might have been some updates to it, but I don't see any on the actual article. Like sometimes they add updates, but like for the major points, it's actually pretty good. It had a lot of info in it.
I'm surprised I missed that.
Oh wow, I just did something stupid. I just typed in that article, only realizing that I already have that article. I already read it, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
I probably skimmed it, but like at the same time, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, it's
But
worth a read. Like all the way through. It's pretty good.
Well, here's a question I want to throw in regard to this merger. Do you guys think potentially that with this merger that is happening, that they will maybe, I don't know, revamp older animes potentially? Like, it doesn't have to be like a season 2 continuation or anything of the sort, but more, I don't know, like
like
edited
like
almost,
bring back old ones or like
basically,
just
yeah.
revise them.
Sort of revise them. Also, more modern techniques for the art and all that. Maybe new
Like a
voice actors,
remastered of Bleach or
basically.
something.
Thank you. That's what I meant.
Yeah, remastering. You know what? I'm not sure. I'm actually quite excited to see what will happen because merging the companies together will mean that there will be a lot more profit. And I only hope that Funimation and Sony kind of take Crunchyroll's abilities when it comes to how they manage their platform, like tech wise. Their website's a lot easier to go through and a lot easier to navigate, and their streaming service I think is a lot better quality than Funimation.
This is true.
And if they have a lot more income from that, I think it would be nice to see them provide more and more interesting content, like maybe remastering some of the old animes out there and giving some content that we really want to see, or even maybe resparking old series that haven't gotten a season 2. Like I would love to see season 2 of Nanbaka, but I don't think I'm ever going to see it. I think it's just lost forever, and that I'll be forever upset about it.
Yeah, that would be really cool if they actually like took some of the IPs that maybe never got greenlit to continue, and they say, you know what, why don't we? But I don't know, because that mostly comes from Japan, right? Like Crunchyroll isn't necessarily an anime studio or anything of the sort. They just kind of like help publish it here in North America, right?
A distribution,
Hasn't-
yeah.
Hasn't
Yeah.
Crunchyroll produced some animes recently?
I have no
Or
idea.
they
Tower
just,
of
like,
God,
slapped
yeah,
in-
for sure.
It's not really anime. Like Crunchyroll originals are not anime.
Oh, okay. I get it confused with like Netflix originals.
I understand what you were saying, but it's the fact that when I've took a look into it, they straight up called it a cartoon and not an anime.
Damn, they
I'm-
said cartoon.
Yes.
Saying cartoons.
So, yes. Also, I just realized that I've read that article too, so I'm like, oh my god, we all read it.
There you go.
Look at us. We're so prepared.
Except me.
I know, right?
Get your shit
so-
together, Leifon.
Emotional damage.
So, and the thing is that while I don't believe that they will remaster new shows, I mean, there are already streaming service for like older shows. Like, if ever you guys heard of Retro Crush, yeah, those are like the animes of the 80s and 90s. Like, I can still find card captors there.
Could I find Sailor Moon there? Because
Yes.
I think
The
really
old
okay.
Sailor Moon. Yeah, the
I thought
old
the
Sailor
only
Moon.
place I could find it is on Hulu. So I know they have the whole thing on Hulu.
It depends on which Sailor Moon, because there's the Sailor Moon like of 2002, 2006, like the Sailor Moon S or what's it called. But I'm talking about like the original Sailor Moon, like
Yeah,
the ones
I
that you'll have
need
in the
my
90s.
childhood anime. I want the old VHS.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
your
what I want.
VHS Sailor Moon is there. That's what I mean.
Awesome. I know where I'm going next. That's my weekend.
Yes.
But who knows what they'll do? Maybe if they do have enough money and they got Sony as well, maybe they might actually start their own studio. That would be interesting because we have seen more animations and like Western animations getting really popular and being associated within the anime front, even though they're not the same, but they're still associated within the same community. It'd be nice to see more of that merge kind of come together with this new platform if it ever goes that way, but who knows? I'm optimistic.
To be fair, like animation is really undervalued in North America, and you see that with like the strikes that were happening with animators and people that work on animated movies and shows. They were all like gathering to protest their low wages compared to live action productions that are basically like the same work, right? And I feel like if Crunchyroll wanted to do that kind of thing, if Sony wanted to do that kind of thing, just kind of use Crunchyroll as a way to develop animated content and then distribute it, right? Because that's what Crunchyroll does. Then they could do it right and be like an industry leader. But I feel like that's, if that even happens, that's like way down the line, right?
Yes. Like, even I think that you're asking for too much.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
because how company functions is that they only really think about profit and not really how their workers actually are valued. So it's this kind of thing where I'm like, I actually appreciate the optimism, and it might be something within a decade if that happens. But I do believe that for even that to happen, there's a lot of events that needs to happen first.
I
Yeah,
agree.
exactly.
I agree
No
with
question.
Monata Boy there because it's not far fetched for Sony to maybe develop a department or a sector that could potentially make their own animes. Like, come on, we have to give it to Sony for making Into the Spider-Verse 1 and 2, which was beautifully done. Not anime, but very well animated.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like the demand is honestly there, and it's very untapped because of the general sentiment, or like I guess you'd even say stigma around like
I would
animated
say stigma.
content. Yeah, sorry.
I would definitely say stigma.
Yeah, exactly. There is, right? But like because of that, no one's really doing it to such a large scale, especially like compared to Japan, right? Japan is like half of the stuff on TV.
It's it's also the fact that as you said, as you pointed out, it is a stigma, but in Japan it's kind of like a way of life. So it's really about how people treat content, and because here in North America, because it is indeed a stigma, people are not really motivated to go all out in animation, and even those who are, it's not everyone. And and when it's being underappreciated, you kind of see that it will affect the quality down the line. It's just how it is. And while in Japan, they're just going hard.
Well, yeah, as Japan
Yeah.
does.
Yes. It's the fact that they don't undervalue it. They have strict and high standards, sure, but as every successful company would have, it just so happens that they're not undervalued. They just, make sure that you do your work right and no mistakes, kind of thing.
Well, there's definitely a lot we could definitely potentially assume and expect. But so far, one of my biggest surprises was I remember back when Tensei, when you told us that Funimation and Crunchyroll were merging, a big thing that the community thought was that we weren't going to get to see any of that merger happen for another year or two. But then we see a couple months later, half of Funimation's library is already on Crunchyroll, and now they're just quickly advertising. So how were any of you guys surprised how quickly they've started?
Yeah, I will say that it was much faster than I expected because when I gave you the announcement, all of you guys, it was under discussion, not so much as, oh yeah, I'm just acquired everything and I'm just gonna just port everything out. Like, so for me, that was like, so I'll say that the speed of it is a shock. But what they were going to do in the first place was kind of expected. My only gripe with it is that for those who were subscribed with Funimation, does their subscription transfer to Crunchyroll, or what does happen with them?
No, it doesn't transfer.
Yeah, so far they haven't really actually said anything how that will happen.
Oh, actually,
But
no, that's not true. In
Really?
the article,
yeah, you seem to be the only one who remembers it. I guess I really just skimmed
He's the
through.
only one who
Like-
has it open too.
no, I just remember it because I read it earlier today.
So we
But
know
anyway,
who's the smartest in this group.
Hardcore, my man.
So, well, they said that they're actively encouraging people to cancel their Funimation accounts and go get a 60-day free trial of Crunchyroll. Wait, they cancel the Funimation and get the Crunchyroll. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that
Um,
I
so
know
it's
they
a kind of a okay. It's not
But-
traditional transfer, but it's a kind of transfer. I like
Yeah.
that.
So that's if that works if you have like a monthly thing that you renew every month, right? But if you have like an extended one, like if you paid for the year or something,
That hurts.
they're telling people to call, I think it's Crunchyroll customer service, and ask them to get the time left on your subscription transferred. And people have said that they've had success doing that so far. So that basically, you have to do it manually. There's no like automatic process where like, oh, you have a Funimation account. Well, now it's transferred to Crunchyroll. No, you have to do that yourself.
This is gonna be a drag.
I mean, that is fair because I believe that that is already a lot of work in and of itself. So I do think that it makes sense that for those who have, like, let's say, like the yearly membership, that they have to do the manual transfer to everything. But it seems worth it for those who paid that much money in the first place.
Oh yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's just I think Crunchyroll should have done something to make it so that it could be an automatic thing. Because like, is it really that difficult to program? Like, oh hey, we have this database, right? Like we just merged with this company, so now we have all the list of all these people that have these subscriptions. Why don't we just make a new list where we transfer all their names over, and they have the same subscription?
I'll actually explain that a little bit.
As will I later if needed.
Yes, the tech people, please explain. I'm an idiot.
Same.
It has to do with the fact that those are two different companies, so they have literally two different programs, so the transfer wouldn't even be automatic, even if we wanted to. I agree that to a degree that it makes sense for a company to have a program that can just auto-port, but if they do, they might have a lot of errors being made in the process, so it's literally better to just actually manually do it by, do it by hand, as I would say. So that by doing it one by one, you're preventing a lot of mistakes by transferring from one company program to another. So it's really the idea that it's two different interfaces, and the transfer / porting is not as easy as 1, 2, 3, unfortunately. And on top of that, if it was so easy to do the transfer automatically, you wouldn't even need a customer service.
No, I mean you could like, you don't necessarily have to have someone that does it manually. You should be able to just, if they have enough money, if they put enough money into it, which Sony has enough money. Okay, let's be real about that.
Like
They can make that happen. They could
could
program
even
it if
hire
they really
department.
wanted to.
If anything, I don't think so.
look
It's
at
not a question
Funimation
about money;
tech.
it's a question of compatibility. However, I do agree however, that they can have like a mini separate temporary department where that, like, like a dedicated department where they do the transfers automatically, so that some people who, like, let's say that there's like that dedicated transfer department, and so they would make it so like the next people that are like logging into Funimation, they will say something like, "Whoops! It sounds like your account has been transferred to Crunchyroll. Log in to Crunchyroll." Would definitely like, while it would make sense, I do think that, unfortunately, despite how much money that big companies do have, they're always in the business of preserving money, I guess, and making more profit.
Oh yeah,
You
I
It
know.
might actually be a legal reason too, because maybe there's something in the contracts where they can't do that automatically without like the person's permission. Because maybe some people
I
don't
do.
want to go over to Crunchyroll. Maybe they just want their subscription to die with Funimation, then
Fair enough.
want to leave.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
do, and yeah, it's also the fact that there's terms and conditions, ULAs also, and there's probably a privacy statement that prevents the transfer in the first place. So I can see it.
Yeah, and I'm happy with what they're doing now because so far working slowly and just like keeping the transfer go, like keeping slowly pushing everyone to Crunchyroll on their own while keeping Funimation still working. Because so far I haven't canceled my subscription yet. I think I'm probably going to cancel it this month and then get that free trial for Crunchyroll, even though I used to have a Crunchyroll subscription. So I wonder if they'll let me.
Use a fake email
I will.
or a different
Yeah, I'll
email.
just use a different email. But yeah, I don't plan to rush into Crunchyroll yet, even though I'm going to watch Spy Family if it kills me.
Or
As you should.
We if we can, we're going to have a watch long.
we
Yes,
could do
yes.
this. We could potentially do this. We all just piggyback off of Monado Boy who has the Crunchyroll account.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
No, let's not ask him for too much now.
Or we could just harass him at his house. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
Oh yes. Oh, we can do that then. Yes, that we can do.
How about no?
I'm happy. Let's do that. That's the next plan.
I like how
I'm
that's
bringing
the
the
thing that
snacks.
you guys are like enthusiastically on board with.
I'll provide my Disney Plus at worst if people need it.
But I mean, hey, I'm down for a viewing party. I love watching anime with peeps.
After we saw the
Fair enough.
Jujutsu Kaisen movie, last episode, of course, it was a great experience.
Hashtags shameless plug.
But
And
sorry.
and now I do have and now I do have motivation to actually start watching that at some point.
But and Andy, I'm happy that you said like you brought up the topic of that it was so quick, Crunchyroll and Funimation, like they announced this and all of a sudden it's in the works. Honestly, it's like that scene from I can't remember the name of the movie, but it's like oh god, I can't remember the name, but it's the actor saying, "Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the fucking money?"
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
isn't that
I know
Big
what you're
Lebowski?
talking about.
Lebowski.
Yeah, basically,
it's Big
that.
Lebowski.
Thank you.
Big Lebowski.
It's basically that. It's like Funimation putting Crunchyroll's head in the toilet and saying, "It's for the money. It's for the money."
Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the fucking money, shithead?
Yeah, honestly, I'm really impressed with how they did that, and it makes sense because doing it as soon as possible, so they're gonna stop putting any new shows on Funimation until eventually, like I think up until maybe the winter season, the next winter season of anime really comes up, and then I think by then we might see Funimation complete platform starting to shut down. That's what I predict.
And then to
Well,
an era.
They're already
It might
not
end
putting.
with all the other shows that are ending, like My Hero is coming into its last arc, and then Jujutsu Kaisen as well. Imagine like maybe Funimation will die with them.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Good riddance to some of those titles that you mentioned. I won't say which ones though.
Better not be talking about JJK.
I said two. Did
My-
I just say? I only said two. It could only be one of them.
No, my besto friendo.
Oh,
Damn right.
I love JoJo. But yeah, there's a lot to be excited about, I think, when it comes to all this. Then, and I'm actually because so far it looks like that they're not going to up the prices. They're going to stick to Funimation's prices when it comes to its subscriptions, which I was a little surprised about because I wouldn't be surprised that if they made them more expensive, but I'm happy they're keeping it the same price. I am afraid, however, that they are going to up the prices as we go, like later on, kind of like how I don't know if you guys remember, but when Netflix used to be $6,
I
now
was about to say that they're going to raise the price down the line, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I hope they don't do it too much because like I don't mind paying like $10 for it, but I don't think I could go anything higher than that in my
Yeah,
personal view.
like you don't want to go like from like the all the way to like the next like $15 a month.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Oh,
thing is like it gets into that territory where like everybody's got way too many streaming services, right? Like everything's a streaming service, and so you got to be like you're paying total like what more than $50 a month, maybe even
Yeah,
100 if you're really crazy for those services. Like that's a lot of
um,
money.
oh,
yeah,
it's
which
crazy.
which basically means that you're paying for cable all over again.
Exactly.
It better be in freaking 4K
And
or something if I'm paying that
and
much.
and and just to keep in mind, like for example, my only streaming service, I don't call it a streaming service, but it kind of is. In my case, it's just Amazon Prime.
Fair,
Yeah.
So
fair.
yeah, because like there is a streaming part inside it, but it's like, but like at the same
Not what
time,
you
like
use it for. Yeah.
I don't use it for that, like, but you know, I have it as an option. But it does scare me for like the future. But at the very same time, like inflation is to be expected. I still hope that they hold it off until at least the merger is complete, and they do it little by little from the moment that the merger is complete.
Yeah, like do it with reason, for example, because like Netflix being $20, the reason why it's so expensive is because they're now their own studio and they produce their own movies now. I can't see unless Crunchyroll does that, like ends up in that same boat many years down the line. I can't see why their prices would need to get higher considering they own the market now.
Well, if they're gonna start improving the service and make it worth it, then it's not necessarily a bad thing that they charge more. Do I want them to charge more? No, definitely not. But I like, as a cynic, and because we've seen this already with elsewhere, like it's probably going to happen, right? Especially because, like what Tensa said at the beginning of the episode, this basically means that they have a monopoly on the legal distribution of anime in North America, right? So they can kind of just get away with whatever they want now. They don't have any checks to care about. So like, there's really nothing holding them back from doing it. So that's sad. That's like, I'm sad about it, but I hope that they don't because I'd rather not. I'd like to not have to pay more. Thanks.
Wishful
Yeah, that'd
thinking,
be very,
guys.
I think
Wishful
that'd
thinking.
be very sad for the community
Mhm.
if that happened. But who knows? It's so far it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and I'm still going to be optimistic about it. And also, when in doubt, if something like that does happen, where for some crazy reason Crunchyroll no longer is faithful to its viewers, then there will be competition that will come up. Like for example, those Japanese streaming services that I forget was it Tensei? Was it you that were talking about it?
It was Tensa.
Yeah, Tensei. Um, yeah. Oh, well, what he was talking about, maybe they might start adding subtitles, and then that would be the new competition. There's a lot that could also happen, and because right now the only other competitions for anime that exist in North America, Netflix is one of them, I would say, because they're dipping their toe into the anime world. Like they have their own reboot of Psyche K. I know that I watched a bit of, and I think they bought up some other animes too. So you never know. Maybe Netflix might be the next competitor against Crunchyroll.
Yeah, that was definitely me who talked about streaming services because again, I saw some that had like those specialized markets, like I said, Retro Crush for more retro like shows. And the thing is that I personally would like for for other companies to really put up their streaming services in the first place, so that there is some kind of healthy competition between them, so they can always, for lack of better term, keep the high quality of things. Because one of the things that I really fear is that once you have the monopoly and you own everything, that the quality wouldn't be as great, because there's nothing to compare to.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And we could only hope that they keep up to the anime community standards, which we need to keep high as a community. If they start to lower the quality, we got to be on them for
That's
that.
okay, because if they do lower it, then we just all become pirates. Arr.
I love being a
Our
pirate.
matey.
We riot.
We riot. We rise at dawn. We fight.
We attack at dawn.
I have no doubt that as a community, we'll make sure that the quality is good. And like we wouldn't be afraid to speak out. Because as far as I'm concerned, the anime community is ruthless.
Yeah.
Very.
Oh yes, I like the time that I see Funimation gets ratioed in almost every announcement. It's hilarious.
I love it. I love it so much. Anyway, so overall, what do you guys like? So how are you guys feeling? Like we talked a lot about how we talked about the merger. We have some concerns, but overall, from after everything we talked about, are you guys optimistic? You guys happy that the merger happened, or would you have preferred that the two companies had stayed separate?
I think overall I'm happy because it just, like I said, right, I just get more value for my subscription that I already had. So right now I can't complain, but it does have a lot of implications down the road that are a cause for concern, right? So something to keep an eye on. But like right now, I'm all right with it.
Nice. How about you, Tensa?
I did think it was a cause for concern, but at the very same time, I wouldn't say so much, because the problem is that Crunchyroll was never really competing with Funimation in the first place. They always seem like they were collaborating. So in a sense, it was really more of a smart business move more than anything. But at the very same time, there was a time where I could have there was a time where I would have said Crunchyroll is at least better than Funimation. Now, not so much.
Yeah, now you don't have the chance. Now you can't. They're the same thing now.
Exactly.
You can't
It-
shit on
it's-
Funimation anymore.
Yes, it's like Pac-Man. They just ate everything.
Oh, it's true. It's true, but that's a good point. I also don't think that they were technically in competition with each other, because they've wanted to merge since I re-looked at the article since 2016. They've wanted to merge.
Yes,
And,
that's why we've
yeah.
seen more collabs, and sometimes they almost look like they were doing the same thing to a degree. And I meant like staff decisions. They were like very similar, so it almost seems like they were preparing this for a while.
Yeah, their real competition is the pirating, websites out there. And
Yep.
yeah, and
And-
merging them
and-
together is a good way to kind of oppose that in a way.
And the fun and sad thing is that the pirating websites don't even get money off it. So it's actually kind of hilarious. It's like, it's just free content for the people.
Well,
It's
they
a
get
service.
money off the ads, don't they? Like they have all those ads that
I mean, yeah. Aside from the adverts, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Then again, I have ad blockers everywhere, so there's maybe that.
Yeah, well, that works. That's always helpful. And what do you think, Leifon? Any last thoughts on this?
Not really. Just let me just watch my anime in peace, and it is what it is.
Yeah, and I do want to also add, back when we were talking about censorship, on like that being a worry, when I think about the censorship back from the 90s, I'm not too worried because the censorship is so much better than it used to be. It's a lot more inclusive in some ways. It's still not like the greatest when it comes to translating over, but it's definitely not as bad as like if you compare dubbed Sailor Moon to subbed Sailor Moon, or like
No, that's a
Oh,
nightmare. That's its own nightmare.
it is a complete nightmare. I don't complain about censorship because of that.
I was
atrocious.
I was talking about all forms of censorship. Like obviously we were only talking about dialogue censorship or really more of messing with intellectual properties. We didn't even start with how all of the Sailor Moon villains, like a bunch of them, that there are girls in the dub, but in the sub or in the original. Oh no, those are gay men, by the way, and stuff
Oh,
like that. Like, oh no,
yeah,
there was like
they
heavier
stopped dubbing
subjects.
the show.
Yes, there were heavier subjects. Like, you know, like how Sailor Neptune and Uranus are like kind of like besties, but they're actually a couple in the original.
They made them cousins. They made them cousins in the dubbed.
And yes, but they were a couple in the real one, and I'm just like, why?
It upset me so much because your
And
cousins don't flirt like that.
their point had to do, well, a lot of it had to do with moral guardians being moral guardians, and I will admit that that was irritating.
Yeah,
And I think,
absolutely.
and I think it has to do with the fact that the Americans did not want people attracted to the same sex in a very good light. I'll admit that it was the 90s, and
Oh yeah.
still people still look at the alphabet community with like the stink eye.
Oh yeah, the Alphabet Mafia still has to fight its way to the big screen, but it's definitely not as bad as it used to be. But no, you're right. The 90s was
It was
you would never
rootless.
see that on
It was
screen.
rootless.
Yeah. But that we'll leave that as a topic for another episode because I would
Fair enough.
happily love to compare the 90s animes to modern day animes. But right now, I think anyone have any parting words, any last thoughts they want to get out? Well, thank you guys so much for joining me on this discussion. I was really excited to talk about it, and I think you guys were too.
Definitely. That was more than a pleasure, and the fact that we didn't talk about it sooner kind of, let's just say I was itching to get the subject in.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about it. It's cool.
Yeah, me too. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming out about it as the months go on, as the seasons change. We'll probably see more and more from this merger. But so far, I think we covered a lot of good ideas. Because who knows, maybe some of the things we're predicting might come to pass, and then we can claim that, you know.
We have it recorded
or
here.
or better yet, maybe they're gonna have new things that will completely blow us our mind and surprise us.
That'd be cool.
Then we'll have a part two.
Yes.
Electric Boogaloo.
That'll be cool. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone, all of our listeners, for tuning into this episode. It was a pleasure. This was a lot of fun. And before we go, I'd just like to remind everyone to please go check out our social medias, subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Otaku Crew. This podcast is available to listen to wherever podcasts are found. So please feel free to check out our other episodes, content. Our Discord channel is always open to join, and we're always happy to include new members and share our fun and very high quality anime memes. Our meme page is very, very active. So definitely come in and enjoy that with us. And thank you guys again. Have a wonderful evening, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.